Topo, I think we are live here, 2024, another year, another live draft special covering the Charlotte Hornets. We're not all live and together, and I'm going to start recording. And actually, I don't know if we
have we made it to the YouTubes?
Have we made it to the YouTubes? That's a good question.
Have we made it? Let me go.
Let's double check.
Yeah. It says we're live.
Are we live?
Yeah, we are live.
We see our You see our faces?
Yes, we are.
Perfect.
The chat is going. Chat is going nuts. Right
okay,
now.
Good. All right, good. We made sure. All right, welcome into the 2024 live drafts. But listen, I've had some nightmare tech issues with these lives before, so I just wanted to make sure that if we're going to do this, in fact, the history of this podcast begins with a little-known podcast called The Double Bonus when I was experimenting with podcasting all the way back in 2014, and we recorded an entire draft special where I fell in love with Shabazz Muhammad, and then that draft special got completely deleted. It doesn't. One of my first podcasts ever doesn't exist. So I had to make sure that we were looking good here and sounding good. So Topo, thanks for joining everyone. I'm Doug Branson alongside David Walker, alongside Nata Edwards. Last year we were all together in Charlotte in person, but that was for the number 2 pick, folks. For the number 6 pick, you get all of us in our houses. I did put on a nice shirt. Someone called it a tablecloth shirt. That's, you know what? That's very nice of you. A good tablecloth is nice. Okay, that's what when you're having company over, you bring out the good tablecloth. So I appreciate that. I'm gonna take that as a compliment.
Doug, that is a Dorothy. You remember the dress from Wizard of Oz?
Of course. Who doesn't?
That's Dorothy. Like you, that's a Dorothy like checkered there. All you're missing is the ruby red slippers.
I mean,
that's it.
Yeah. And House on Top of the Wicked Witch of the West. All right, let's talk about this draft, and let's update everyone on what's going on as we are a little under a half hour from the coverage beginning. The Hornets pick 6th, and if I'm doing my math right, I think they'll probably officially make the pick around 9 o'clock, so an hour into the coverage. So we've got about an hour and a half before the official pick comes in. Now, who knows with trades and who knows with tipping picks, what's going to happen. I will say up front that the rules of this show are if we see it online, we say it. And sometimes that means we get tricked, but most of the time it means that we have the unofficial word from someone and we're going to say it. So there will be lots of spoilers. If you're not into that, then you probably want to just check this out a little bit later. Definitely hit us up on the chat here on YouTube. I will check in with that as well. This is Locked On Hornets. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making us your first listen every day. We're free and daily wherever you get your podcast, including on YouTube. So here are the latest updates. Kelly Iko from The Athletic, he covers the Rockets, one of his beats, said in his New York Times write-up that rival teams continue to believe that the Rockets have an interest in Memphis's Marcus Smart in potential trade-down scenarios, despite recent pushback from team sources. The Charlotte Hornets continue to express interest in acquiring the number 3 pick, and one Western Conference executive identified center Mark Williams as someone Houston could have an interest in. You're shaking your head, Nata, so I'll go to you first. Does that mean you are not interested in moving Mark Williams for a potential trade-up scenario to 3?
We don't, like, the Charlotte Hornets have had the worst situation in terms of bigs and rebounding. The last thing they need to do is trade the one promising big for Stefan Castle, who I like and who this is really for. So all you're doing is swapping around deck chairs on the Titanic, if that were to be the thing that they do.
Okay, but what if they traded a deck chair for a slightly bigger, more physical deck chair? What if they moved to 3, David, and they ship Mark Williams out, but they bring back Donovan Clingan from Yukon? David, I don't know that we have your audio. Are you muted? Yeah. Okay, we'll check back in with David in just a second. I mean, look, I think that Mark Williams should not be untouchable. I agree with you, though, Nata. If you're going to move Mark, it better be in a scenario where you are sure you can replace that, either by taking Klingon, who I think, to me, Klingon actually, I think if you put those two in a steel cage match via the,
Celebrity death match?
Training camp scenario, you put those two together, Donovan Klingon's coming out on top. Honestly, they even like as soon as next season. So, I think you could replace him with Donovan Klingon, or you could make a trade or an acquisition to replace Mark if you came up with some other assets. But I agree, it needs to be a surefire thing if you're going to trade a young player with a great contract like Mark Williams. All right, David, did we get the audio? Yes. Okay, so I'll throw it to you.
Do you have me now?
Yeah, we do. Are you willing to ship Mark Williams out for a trade-up scenario?
No. I'm with you guys. I think he's still seen as a corner piece on this team and still really have yet to see that play out. So I think it's a little too soon to move off of that unless you were going to get some, franchise cornerstone back in its place. But as Nata said, I mean, that would have to be basically a complete 100% surefire upgrade at center, right? And even then, you're still working to build up that depth. So no, I mean, I think Mark Williams would pretty much have to be off the board as far as shipping him out right now.
Okay, let's move on to a report that came out around 11 a.m. this morning from Matt Moore of the Action Network. He writes, Stefan Castle is the name that's starting to rise as we get within hours of the draft. The Spurs and Hornets are both thought to be high on Castle, to the point where he may be their number one target. Word started buzzing Wednesday morning that the Rockets were pitting San Antonio and Charlotte against one another to move up and get Castle, which would still allow Houston to take either Donovan Klingon or Reed Shepherd. Are you buying all of the Castle hype around the Hornets? Would they rather take Castle than Reed? What do you think, Nata?
I think it's the only, I think it's always been Castle. Like, me and we've had discussions since the lottery. Like, Castle has been the guy. I think it's always been Castle because he addresses so many of the things that the Hornets are lacking. They lack defensive pressure. They lack physicality. They lack basketball IQ in that backcourt outside of Brandon Miller and LaMelo Ball. So there's a lot of things that they do lack that he addresses. The big thing that he doesn't address, shooting, which I understand, but for the most part, he addresses pretty much every need in their backcourt right now.
Okay, so yeah. Bam, go into the chat real quick. Bam Bam saying Mark Williams is so much faster. Klingon looks slow. Jordan says Klingon and Williams together. The problem with that, Jordan, is that we don't know if Klingon can shoot, and you can't really run two big guys out there that can't shoot. And let's see. We've got some people asking about the Avdia trade. I'm going to get to that in just a second. Dre saying, of course, Castle is on the rise. Of course, C. White saying Castle is a high-energy defensive specialist that can't shoot. Didn't we try that already with Michael Kidd-Gilchrist? I've had a lot of people asking me, is Castle the second coming of MKG? And the lights have gone out on the show. We are still working through these technical difficulties, so I'll see if I can get my guys back on here. They both dropped out. So I will check back with them in a second. But I don't think – okay, there we go. Let's –
what's going on?
I don't know either, but we've got you back, and that's all that matters. Nata, is Stefan Castle the second coming of Michael Kidd-Gilchrist?
Let me go make sure that we didn't
Nata, can you hear me? Okay, good. Well, we will figure this situation out.
It's going live.
And there we go. Nata, can you hear me? No. Okay. Very good.
Oh,
all right. So
really, because I cannot hear you at all.
I'm going to put up this is why we do this. This is why we do this a half an hour before the draft. So I'm going to throw up a full screen really quickly. We are going to take a quick break, and I'll be back, and we'll get these tech issues figured out, and we will be right back.
Like it just can't
And
be
we're
here.
back.
Oh.
All right.
Oh, wow.
All
Technical
right.
difficulties.
Well, that's okay. It happens. Hopefully the Hornets
Yeah.
don't have any technical difficulties as they get ready to make their sixth pick here in a bit. All right, let's jump right back into things. We were talking about Stefan Castle. Someone asked the question, is he the second coming of MKG? So I'm going to throw it to both of you really quickly. David, is Stefan Castle the second coming of MKG, or are you comfortable with those low shooting numbers that he put up for Yukon last season?
Well, yeah, certainly not comfortable with that shooting, but no, I don't think he's the second coming of MKG. I think MKG was such a one-off in terms of such promise with just the absolute inability to ever develop a shot. And we loved MKG and rooted for him, but I think Castle did so much more in that offense at Yukon to help drive the offense, move the ball, make things happen, cutting, and that's not. I haven't even talked about his defense yet, which is elite. So I think, especially when you look at Boston, the four guards or the four wing guys they put out there to win that championship this year, you put you put Miller and Castle on the wings, you've got a hell of a foundation there. Not to mention your 6'7" point guard and LaMelo Ball. That's as big as the Hornets will be on the perimeter maybe ever. So no, I think Castle fit is perfect.
Nata?
I just I'm gonna be real with you. The MKG comps are kind of lazy. I'm sorry. It's one of you want to tell me he's tentative at times. Okay, cool. But at the same time, this is the same guy that I saw just shut that completely down a Terrence Shannon Jr. that's probably going to be in the lottery. Mm-hmm. I saw him shut down a Boo Buie that was white hot as anyone else in the tournament. He played in games that mattered and shut it down. The MKG, the jump shot is a concern, but at the same time, Alabama tried it. What happened? Purdue, to an extent, tried the same thing, and he burned them still. I understand that the shot is a work in progress, but it's not broken. It's not one of those things where you're worried about there being a meme about the hitch in his jump shot. A lot of this is going to be repetition and work. And more importantly, if Charles Lee is the development guy that we think he is, and he's brought in these guys that are the development guys that everyone says they are, then you know what they're going to be able to do? They're going to be able to fix the jump shot to make it passable to where he's okay. And more importantly, this team needs a Marcus Smart type of guard that will get in your shorts, be a culture guy, be a smart player. And more importantly, when's the last time we've had an actual factual dog on defense? Think about that portion of that. And for that alone, I believe in Castle.
That's what I've been saying all along. I mean, this team has not had a player with the potential to be a defensive player of the year. And just the potential. I'm not even talking about someone that's been in the running for defensive player of the year, just someone that has the potential to be that in a very long time. So it would be exciting to have a player of Stefan Castle's abilities when it comes to defense. The chat is on fire right now. I love it. They're hanging with us through the tech difficulties. We appreciate it. Shout out Bam Bam. Shout out Cody. Shout out Shook. Shout out Digital. Shout out Melody, who asked Nata, is Dalton Connect Christmas socks from Walmart or is he Christmas socks from Nordstrom?
Walmart.
Oh, no. Oh, we were playing.
Yeah, but we can get it. We can.
Have you seen this man's fit tonight? Oh, no, this is not the first fit, conversation.
No, I have not seen
Connect.
Does he look like Paul Wall? That's all I need to know. Is it Paul Wall-esque? That's all I want to know.
I'll tell you what the theme of tonight is from the stylist. It's the double-breasted, no tie look. So get ready for a lot
so
of
it's
that.
Jack Harlow.
yes.
It's Jack Harlow. No. Fellas,
Is anyone wearing a tablecloth for a shirt? That's what I want to know. Or am I standing alone?
Your very LeBron decision with that shirt, and I'm a big fan of it. It's very traditional. Hey, now I wanted to ask Nata something if I could, Doug. Just jumping back to the Yukon thing, because Yukon obviously ran roughshod through the college basketball season last year, but did play at a faster pro style pace, correct? And Castle was big time involved in that. But I mean, Klingon was out there too, right?
So
getting up and
it's
down.
Funny you
what
mentioned
does he
that.
look like? Yeah,
it's funny you mention that, because like for me, that was the best college defense I've seen since I took the job. Now, granted, that's only 3 years, but that was the closest thing to a pro outfit that I've seen. There's a reason why Dan Hurley was picked, or was at least trying like one of the guys for the Lakers job, because he runs so many similar to NBA sets. So that's the thing. That's the other thing with a guy like Castle and a guy like Klingon, is they have advanced knowledge, because, and it's funny we mentioned that, because I think it was with Ryan Russillo, where Dan Hurley quite literally talks about how he he didn't get the athletic freaks. He didn't get the guys that couldn't walk and chew bubble gum, and they changed it to a much more cerebral style. And it kind of felt like they were taking shots at James Bouknight about he couldn't think his way out of a phone booth. But at the same point, like, I would just point out that if you're worried about adjustments to the NBA, I'm not sure that that's a thing you need to worry about with Stefan Castle. If you're telling me that you're worried about the athleticism, I'm not. I think it's kind of overstated. And if we're going to talk about his lack of athleticism, then we better talk about how strong he is as a 19-year-old, and how he was sealing off 22, 23-year-olds in terms of strength. And again, a guard that doesn't get pushed around for the Charlotte Hornets is rare, especially coming out of the box. So in terms of like Yukon guys, they're kind of advanced, and I don't think that's getting brought up enough.
Okay, what's getting brought up too much right now is my shirt, and I just want to say everybody needs to lay up.
Oh no!
Everybody needs to lay up on. I've got James here saying Doug Picnic Branson. I've got Brian saying, "Hey boo boo, let me get a picnic basket." Here's the thing: you guys better lay up on my shirt. I'm going to take it off, and that is a threat.
Oh no!
You're going to see another. You're going to see. I'm going to take the shirt off, and you're going to see a sweater. I'm just telling you right now. Okay, so be careful.
I'm just saying.
Be careful what you wish for.
You need to click your heels 3 times and go back to Kansas.
All right, let's keep going with this news train. More updates. This one from Jake Fisher on Twitter earlier today. Nets looking to get in the first round. DFS and Cam Johnson on the table. Nata, are you interested in either Dorian Finney-Smith or Cam Johnson in a potential trade to get the Nets back into the draft?
I was a fan until I realized that they have a lot of money that would probably cost the Hornets 2 first-round picks. I do think that Cam Johnson fits a lot of their needs. It allows people to say goodbye to Miles Bridges a little bit more gracefully, and it allows the modernization of the Charlotte Hornets offense to where we can get to a little bit more 4.5 out, 5 out. The problem is the price tag is probably going to be something ridiculous, and I'm not sure that the Hornets have the assets to properly pay that and not have come back to bite them at this point.
David, interested in either of those players?
Yeah, I mean, I think Cam Johnson would be a great piece to add in here, as long as he can stay on the floor. You know, I think he's tall, he can shoot, he can move the ball well. He's been impactful kind of in most of the places. Even if he and Bridges, you know, last year, I'm not sure what to make of their roles or their performance with the Nets last year. Like after the trade the year before, I think there was a little more excitement, or like a little more, maybe a higher ceiling for both. But I think Cam Johnson would be a great fit. But, you know, I'm with Nata. Like the prices that we're seeing across the board right now tonight are terrifying. And so like especially where the Hornets are, right? Just introduced a new head coach, new regime. I mean, look, I think this regime is going to be a lot more flexible and a lot more able to move and kind of take things as they come and have backups. But like, I don't know, man. The prices right now for these players are skyrocketing.
Well, so
Thanks,
OG,
Knicks.
yeah. So let's kind of talk about that a little bit. So OG Anunoby got a huge contract. We've got recently, just a few minutes ago, Nick Claxton getting $100 million deal for 4 years. So it's 25 per. You know, they've I think we have to assume they've been negotiating with Bridges, but you don't have a contract yet. So obviously that has not, there's probably some disagreement there on the value, waiting for him to hit free agency. What else do we have? We have this trade for Mikal Bridges that was 5 first-round picks plus some other stuff. And then you've got a trade here for Washington, trading Denny Avdia to Portland for Brogdon and number 14 and a 2029 pick for Denny Avdia, for God's sakes.
I mean, yeah.
So there's a lot of stuff flying around here. Yeah, so I understand your point that any pay, unless you're going to be trading with the Chicago Bulls, which could be a possibility, they've got the 11th pick and Patrick Williams. Unless you're going to be trading with the Bulls like Oklahoma City did, you're going to be overpaying. So you've got to be careful. If you're going to make your move, you better be sure that it all makes sense. And I think for a new front office and a new ownership group, they are going to want to really be perceived as the winner of whatever trade they are involved in. They're going to want to get with a team that is maybe like Portland, up against some aprons that they don't want to be up against. And I'm not talking about my shirt. I'm talking about the tax aprons. It's called
tax apron shirt, though, Doug.
That's good. Well, yes, this is second. Yes, it's much more expensive. It's a second tax apron shirt.
You're right, though, Doug.
That's the kind of team you want to get involved with.
Think about how long they have. Again, we're kind of mixing regimes here, but think about how long this team has tried to accumulate actual assets in first-round picks, right? They finally have some. I think they'd probably like to add some more as they continue to kind of, they're calling these lean years already. We haven't even rolled the ball out on the court.
Well, okay, Nata. What David is referring to, if you don't know, is that in an interview before he took over as head coach officially, Charles Lee was sort of hinting at what the Hornets were going to look like in this upcoming season, and he said, that he and his staff are ready for some lean years. What do you don't think that means that they're going to be losing a lot?
Back. He walked that back a lot yesterday. That was the big thing that I took away from that, was that he walked a lot of that back. This is a talent-rich team. Again, the big thing was that they were snake bit by injuries. A lot of that felt like, hey, look, I might have been wrong about this team, and I might walk some of this back. Now, granted, some of that might have been management being like, hey, we still need to sell some tickets for the lower bowl. I'm not gonna discount that part. But he did a lot of walking, a lot of what he said in that piece back in terms of, hey, this team is actually a little bit more talented than I initially thought. And he said it in basically the nicest way possible.
Well, and I just said that just to say that, like, it doesn't feel like this would be the move to unload their assets in those first round picks or try and make a swing on a Cam Johnson level player. You know what I mean? Like, if they're going to keep building and build up this team, surround LaMelo, surround Miller, surround Mark Williams with more pieces, and then make a move with some draft picks, it feels like we said, it's just getting too expensive for a Cam Johnson tonight, maybe.
Okay, let's stick with Charles Lee. So, new head coach. We'll have plenty of time, David and Nata, maybe in this show later on as we're waiting for the pick to come down, to get into your sort of deeper thoughts about his first impression. But just sticking with the draft right now as we preview this, how does the hire of Charles Lee in your mind affect, if at all, what this front office is going to do tonight in the draft?
It shouldn't. Like, I think, if anything, this team was going to need to get more modern anyway. There were going to need to be at least 4 guys on the perimeter. There were going to need to be guys that needed to improve their defense, or you needed to improve the defensive capability of your backcourt. There were a lot of these things that were going to happen anyway. But at the same point, I really do think we're talking about a team that needed to get better in every aspect. It just now so happens that you have Charles Lee that is really, really good at developing players and really, really good at teaching defense. So I'm not sure it affects, but who knows? Because this team has done a lot of things in the last, I would say, 12 hours that we haven't seen from a Charlotte NBA front office in a very, very long time.
David?
Yeah, great point. It's hard to say. I didn't see much talk in his one-on-ones. Was there much mention of like how much input he has had into the draft process? I mean, obviously he hasn't been here, but he has been in touch with some of these guys. I mean, you got to listen, right? I mean, he is part of it, but they've been building this draft more or less without him, certainly on the ground. So, I loved everything I heard from him, but I would think that maybe on this one he will kind of defer to more of some of the more knowledgeable guys in the room, maybe just about these players.
Oh, no, you're totally right. Because, look, he was busy trying to win a championship with Boston. I don't think he scouted any of these players. So in terms of, like, direct influence, he's not going to have it. But I do think in hiring him, if you are aligned with him, that means you are aligned with finding players who have a commitment to work. So I think character, I think interview are going to have a big effect on who they end up drafting. I think that he put an emphasis in his first interviews with the media on two-way play, on being committed to both ends of the floor. So to me, that rules out a Dillingham or somebody that is only committed to the offensive end of the floor. I think they're going to want to prioritize someone who can at least commit to the defensive end of the floor, if not provide him with players who can help anchor a better defensive showing. So I think it's higher. I think you guys are right. There's not going to be a direct influence in terms of Lee getting into the war room and saying, yes, that guy, no, that guy. But I think his hire does signal what we can expect from the Hornets tonight. Let's get back to some news. Kristen Peak of Yahoo said that the Hornets might be eyeing Tidjane Salaün, the lengthy French wing player. What do we think of that? Is that smoke and mirrors? Is that real? Would the Hornets consider taking Tidjane Salaün at 6, David?
I mean, to me, guys, tell me if I'm wrong here. I just don't get what that would mean. What that would be. He's one of the youngest players in the draft. Won't
Super
turn
raw
19 until August. Not much production on the defensive end, right? I mean, not a guy that's going to have to improve and up his game. And so that doesn't scream culture setter, that doesn't scream someone who's coming in to make an immediate impact. It's more of not necessarily draft and stash, but I mean, you're not looking for much out of him, I think, next year. I don't know where that went. So that's an odd one to me. It feels like a smokescreen.
Nata?
It's a clear hostage play. Like, that's the thing I keep coming back to. It's a clear hostage play. You're basically saying, hey, San Antonio, please don't take Stefan Castle, because then we'll take Wembanyama's buddy, who you probably made a promise to that you were going to take him at 8. I like Tidjane Salaün. I think he's a very gifted player. I think the Giannis vibes are real, even though I think comparing him to probably the greatest success story in NBA player personnel development is a bad idea. But at the same point, I would put it this way. There's raw and he's like mooing. That's how raw he is. He's entirely too raw to take at 6. If you're telling me, okay, I'm going to take him at 8, 10, 12, 14, okay, I can see it. But for the most part, I just don't see a scenario where you draft him at 6 and you actually feel good about it.
Okay, so let's stay on that subject, because you bring up a good point. He's not really going to help you contribute to the team next season. The player that they draft with this number 6 pick, if it is indeed number 6, is going to make $7.5 million in his first season. If they move up to 3, that turns into $10+ million. That would, at 6, at $7.5 million, that would represent the 7th, maybe 6th highest paid player on the team if they don't re-sign Bridges and they trade, waive, or restructure Davis Bertans. So that's going to be a significant piece of your cap. I think you would hope that player in some way is contributing to you next season, but where are you in terms of your sort of help win now versus wait a couple of years to develop? Because, I mean, you look at a guy like Ron Holland, and certainly not mooing raw, but is a player that I think is going to take a little bit more time to jumpstart than maybe a Dalton Connect. So, David, where are you on that sort of scale between wanting a player that's going to help you immediately versus being okay with waiting a year or two to see their contributions fully?
Yeah, I mean, for the team like the Hornets that effectively swung and missed on an entire draft not too long ago and just put a huge hole in their rebuild, in their build plan or whatever, I think it's kind of more important for them maybe than anyone else to continue to add playable pieces through the draft. And when you're as high as 6, I know it's a bad draft, but there's always going to be someone that pops. And there's always going to be pieces that you can find. They're uniquely situated, I think, in this draft, honestly, to still get someone who fits very nicely into what they need. Now, you could say they need a lot, and you wouldn't be wrong. But, we can talk about how things might shake out. But there's going to still be a handful of guys. We haven't even talked about it, Cody Williams, who is generating some buzz this afternoon as well. So if I'm the Hornets, I'm definitely looking to find somebody to be able to play some minutes.
Nata.
Get you a guy that can do both. I think there are guys like David mentioned that can, while they may be raw or on the raw-ish side. I am one of those people that believes in Ron Holland a little bit more than most. I believe that the jump shot is a lot more fixable than, say, a guy like Modest Bezelis. I believe in Stefan Castle. I think if guys fall to 6, and I do need to mention this, I do not want them to trade up. I don't think there's any value in trading up. But if you're telling me at 6, there's a Reed Shepherd that shot 53% from 3 on really good volume. Like, there's a guy that can come in there and contribute, as long as we're not expecting any starters, because if we're really honest about this draft, this is the Big Lots open box special of drafts. You're going to find yourself a dented toaster.
Hey, I got this shirt at Big Lots. Okay.
Exactly. That's my point. That's exactly my point, Doug. Like, this is the Big Lots open box special of drafts. If you can get yourself a legitimately really good player, why not go get him, develop him, and you never know what's going to happen. CJ McCollum came out of this of a similar style draft. You can find yourself a guy that can make an all-star game or two if you develop them properly, as long as you identify the qualities that you actually want.
Okay, good points by both of you. Let's go to the chat here. James says, we are not a stable enough organization to handle young projects, especially ones with a culture gap. I think that was true. I think we'll have to see what that means with the new ownership group, with an entirely new coaching staff, with a new there's that too.
They don't have a choice. You have to be that team. You have to be that team now.
Exactly. I think they're getting more professional. They're getting more mature, and that would be a good test. I think they do have to have some contributions from the rookie this season. It doesn't have to be the third option this season, but it needs to be a player that does give you some impact, because I think this front office is going to be looking for an early win. This organization is looking to they're already doing Spectrum Center renovations. They want to put a new practice facility together. They want to create an entertainment district. And I don't think you can swing and miss or wait 3 years for a guy to develop, into somebody that can be a major contributor. I just don't think they can afford to do that. So that's why I think Dalton, you've heard a lot of Dalton Connect more than you've heard a Tidjane Salaün or some of these other guys as well. One name that's been sort of around 6, maybe closer to 9 or 10, that I've literally heard nothing about in terms of interest from the Hornets, except that I think he did work out for the Hornets, and that's Jacoby Walter. Nata, you're our college basketball expert. Can you give us a quick scouting report on Jacoby Walter if that turns out to be the surprise Hornets pick?
6. The idea behind him, and it's a really good one, is that Scott Drew kind of suppresses, like, playing in that system kind of suppresses your numbers. So if you're telling me that he's going to be the pick, you're basically gambling like Keontae George did last year, that you're going to see something from him that you weren't able to see under Scott Drew. I do believe that he's an excellent shooter. I do think that he's a guy that if they trade back, I can understand why, because at 6, there are other guys I like. I might, in terms of like the two-guard board for me, it goes Castle, Walter, Castle, Holland, Walter. Mm-hmm. So he's 3rd, but I think that it's not as distant of a 3rd. I think Ron Holland is a better prospect at 9 or even 6. I can't justify drafting Jacoby Walter at 6 at this point, though.
All right, Adam Silver is on the dais. The draft is getting kicked off here, and we are going to find out early, I think, what the Hornets' options are in terms of trading up or trading back. Because, look, if Donovan Clingan goes number 1 overall, or goes 2, or goes 3 in a trade, then that's going to really kind of set in motion a chain of events that could lead the Hornets either to staying pat at 6 and taking a guy like Connect or Castle, or moving back, because Memphis is salivating over the opportunity to take Clingan. It's just how much are they willing to give up? Are they willing to go out and get 3 or 2 or 1? Or will they see if the chips fall to Charlotte And
Can I put
yeah,
up a quick prediction?
go ahead.
Clingan doesn't fall out farther than 5.
Well, I hope he falls to 6 because I put a FanDuel bet. You gotta bet the buzz that Clingan will fall to 6 and that I didn't bet that the Hornets would trade it, but I've got Clingan at 6. I've got another bet. I've got Ricochet at 4. I think Ricochet, if he doesn't go 1, he's going to go 4.
Makes sense.
And that would bring in that was a very
you missed Twitter. You missed Twitter. Sir, I hate to put it this way.
Has he already gone? Has he already gone 1?
Well, Woj put it like 7 minutes before the broadcast started that the Hawks are closing in on Ricochet.
Okay, well, you know what? Woj has been wrong before, and in fact, this offseason has already been wrong. Okay, so I'm still betting on that.
So the Clingan thing is the big thing to me, and I mean that's the linchpin for everything in my eyes. Should things stay as they are, because if you're talking about Sarr, Ricochet, that's 2 spots. If you're locked into Bazelis at Detroit, which seems like it might be there, that's another spot. Then you're talking about 3 guys, Shepherd, Castle, Clingan, that get you to 6, right? And I mean, that's not a bad worst case scenario, honestly. No. Now, what you do with the Clingan, that gives you some more options too. But I mean, they're sitting pretty right now, I think, in my eyes, to be able to select one of those 3, it seems like. Now, we might see some weird stuff. I'm ready. I'm ready for chaos. I'm ready for something crazy to go.
Remove the mic, because again, we just saw Denny Avia go for 2 firsts and 2 seconds, David. Remove the mic. The weird is already here.
You're right. It might be too late.
It's going to get crazy. Hang with us. EB Camp says, come on, Nata, no spoilers. I'm going to say it again. I'll say it a couple times in the show. If we see it, we say it. That's been the rule for many years on this show, because if you want the sort of fake surprise whatever thing, then just watch it on ESPN and come back to us tomorrow for more analysis of the pick. We are going to say it as soon as we see it, as long as it's from a reputable source. Sometimes we get tricked, but most of the time we're on the mark. I've got this new Twitter list or X list or whatever of reputable sources. Yeah. So the draft is started. The Hawks are on the clock, but the clock never started. I don't know if I guess the Hawks are sure that they're going to take Ricochet. I'll tell you why I missed the Woj tweet. It's because he's tweeting in this instead of tweeting the words, he's tweeting this report in this I don't know what this headliner.app sort of video here. Just give me the words, Woj. I just want the words. So let's play a quick game of true or false. Ready?
Okay.
True or false, Nata, one of Castle or Reed will be there at 6.
False.
David.
True.
I say true as well. I think Reed's not going to be, but I think Castle will be.
I don't understand. Do you understand the Castle 4 to the Spurs? I mean, I understand it.
I don't get it.
But just because he says he's a point guard, doesn't mean he's a point guard. Today,
but they need defense.
But they need shooting.
Yeah. But they
need shooting worse than the Hornets do. The Hornets actually, because of the trade deadline, went from 25th to 16th or something, and in 3-point percentage. I don't have those numbers exactly right, but pretty close. The Spurs were in the basement and stayed in the basement in terms of 3-point shooting. So I just don't I know that they're a couple of years away from doing anything, but.
I'll say this. I mean, if he's going to be an immediate impact, and if the Spurs are talking about winning now, that makes sense, the Castle. But they still need a point guard. They still need shooting. He gives you a little bit of point guard, but I just think it's not the perfect fit. I think it's a little bit of a force, but it's the Spurs. I mean, they'll probably be fine.
We also kind of have to remember that the Spurs have, I believe, $36 million in cap space. They can go get themselves some shooting. They can go get some shooting from the free agency and the trades. So I wouldn't necessarily say you go get you need to go get the shooter. You go get the best player and then surround it with shooting, and then Wembanyama takes over the world. That's basically the formula for them.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so we've got it from Shams. Atlanta has selected Zachary Ricochet at number 1 in the 2024 NBA Draft. So Clingan still on the board. My bet still alive. I appreciate that. You got to bet the best. Thanks, FanDuel. Also, this is from NBA Trade Report. I don't know how much we trust that, but Isaiah Hartenstein leaning towards re-signing with New York over more lucrative offers elsewhere. So New York would continue to get closer to their second apron, but they are re-signing all of their players and other people's players and trying to run it back. So yeah, there's your next contender in the East. You wonder if that's going to cause some of the teams in the middle of the East, like Cleveland,
or the top, like Philly.
Or like Philly, if it causes them to panic compete, or if it causes them to reassess and say, look, you know, maybe we back off a little bit and wait a couple of years before we make a run at this thing. So certainly Philly can't. Philly can't. Yeah, Philly's going to compete, but maybe some other team, Miami, you know, and Jimmy Butler looks like he's not going to.
Either.
Yeah.
Milwaukee can't either. Like you have four teams essentially that can't afford not to compete now in the East. It's Indiana that really is interesting situation, fascinating situation. Even you have Miami, which is also a fascinating situation for a multitude of reasons. There's a lot of these teams that can't afford not to compete. It's just figuring out how. And you got to remember, a lot of those teams have issues with like the apron.
That Kyle Korver in Atlanta's war room, is he part of the Atlanta Hawks front office now? I'm pretty sure that was Kyle Korver. Gotta love a Kyle Korver sighting.
Well, yeah, I mean, once a Hawk, always a Hawk, I guess.
That's right.
So I posted this in the subtext, but here is Muggsy Bogues, Hornets legend. Yeah. He's put his own big board out. I love that Muggsy still cares about the Hornets. You know, after all of these years. He still watches. Awesome. He's still a fan. His big board is Matas Buzelis. I'm going to get these pronunciations right. Reed Shepard and Dalton Connect. So he's got Buzelis number 1 overall.
Man,
I don't like that.
You don't like Buzelis. Tell me, so because Walker is a big Buzelis fan, you guys just really groaned pretty hard at the idea of Buzelis. So we'll start with you, Nata. Why the groan for Buzelis?
Someone needs to tell me what he does like well at any sort of level. Someone needs to tell me that. There's I get the concept of Matas Buzelis. It's whatever else that he does. Like his shooting. If you have an issue with the outlier shooting for Reed Shepard in Kentucky, I get it. But you also have to point out that the outlier shooting was in high school for Buzelis. He never showed any of the shooting issues, the shooting stroke with pro competition. He never showed the ball handling. Yep. There's a lot of this that is, we're going to have to stash this guy in Greensboro for maybe 2 or 3 months and then bring him up. And then that's before we even talk to the fact that these Ignite guys seem to need at least another year over the college guys in terms of seasons.
Well, so it's all eye of the beholder stuff, right? Because like his block percentage was 5.6, his steal percentage was 1.5. Those are great numbers, but it's like it's in G League Ignite. How much do you? But none of those guys play defense. So when someone does play defense, it's actually pretty exceptional. But then it's like you're playing defense against who, you know? And so how much do you rate that? But yeah, I mean, his 3-point percentage was booty. It was 26.1%.
He says he can shoot, though. He says he can shoot.
Well, he only hit 69.6% of his free throws too. So that's that's the thing you look at with Klingon too. Yeah. His free throw percentage was pretty awful. So, you know, how does he project out as a shooter? It's concerning. But at the same time, athletic, 6'10", pretty big, like could get bigger. I mean,
Buzelis.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ball handling is just concerning, though, because when you're getting a guy like that who can't shoot and can't handle the ball or has trouble getting, you know, I mean, what's he going to do for you?
It's going to be Nick Batum.
Like at 6. So that's Muggsy's top. That's his big board for the Hornets, right?
Correct.
He's not saying Buzelis is the best guy in the draft.
No. That's his Hornets big board. Buzelis, Shepard, and then Connect.
I also have a rumor, essentially. I heard a rumor that when Buzelis was here, he did not have the best of workouts. So,
well, and that's been the big thing on Ron Holland is that his, and I don't know Charlotte specific, but that his workouts, that he's not a good workout player, that he didn't have good workouts, and that sort of cost him maybe some like mid to early lottery buzz. Yeah, go ahead.
I have questions because there's a part of me that thinks a lot of this feels like something that went on in Chicago. And this, again, granted, this is absolute reckless speculation. I do not know anything.
Love it.
I don't know anything.
But at this point, I just like it feels like Ron Holland did or said something because for me,
Yeah.
he's clearly the better Ignite prospect. It's not close. Like I look at a guy like Modest Bizelis and I see, okay, you need a lot of seasoning and you're gonna need at least another league in whatever G League affiliate you're gonna play for. With Ron Holland, I can at least see the outline of a DeMar DeRozan. I can see a guy that can play immediately. I don't see that with Modest Bizelis. Like, and probably this is gonna be one of those things that'll come back and it'll be like, haha, you remember that? But again, if you're telling me I'm having to draft a G League Ignite guy, give me Holland, and I'm not sure it's all that close.
I wonder if he went into the interview and was like, "Look, I think this Kyrie Irving guy, he's got some points. He makes some good points." And they were like, "Oh boy,
I mean,
here we go."
Look, if you're talking about a Jaylen Brown type to put out there with Miller, I mean, yeah, that's Holland. A year ago,
all right, Sarr going number 2 to Washington, according to Shams. So
now it gets interesting, guys. But I'll just finish this and say, a year ago is no one pick overall, and gets on the G League Ignite. Why would anyone continue the G League Ignite? Is this fascinating?
No, that's why it's going away. That's why.
I know it's so bad. It's so bad. It's going away. But that was my thing, Nata. I thought I missed something. Like, was there something? Was there some stink they got on him and just has plummeted him down, or will we see someone step up there and grab him? Because like the measurables and everything are pretty tantalizing.
I don't understand how anyone has a guy like Rob Dillingham over a Ron Holland at this point. I like Rob Dillingham. I think he's an electric scorer. I think there are some things that Reed Sheppard got credit for that Rob Dillingham did last year. There's a lot of that. But at the same point, I like Ron Holland. I think Ron Holland can play defense. If he actually went to college, he would be a lot higher because I think he would have been in a better situation. He chose a bad situation and it burned him. At the same point, if we're trading down, or honestly, if Castle and Sheppard are gone, he's kind of like, I'd rather him over Connect because I know what Ron Holland can do on one end. I understand the shooting. There's a Dalton Connect, as we've heard already, is like Christmas socks to me. I understand the purpose of them, but at the same point, I would much rather the PlayStation 5 for Christmas.
Well, the Christmas socks are going to get worn a lot, and then they're going to go into the dresser for a while. That's the nature of Christmas socks. Let's talk about the fact that you had 2 Frenchmen go 1-2. There were a record 14 Frenchmen in the NBA last season, and a lot of international players succeeding right now in the NBA. But did you know, I've got a little nugget for you, in the NBA draft, a college freshman, now they could have been international or U.S. born, but a college freshman was the number 1 overall pick in the NBA draft for 13 consecutive years from 2010 to 2022 until Wembanyama, the Frenchman, went last year. And now we've got 2 more freshmen, neither that played in college. So there you go. Sarr officially picked by Washington. The Washington fans seem pleased. Sarr, please, did not want to, despite saying he wanted to be the number 1 pick, he definitely did not want to be the number 1 pick, wanted to go to Washington to the better situation, and he gets his wish.
I get it.
I think the thing about Dillingham, especially, or anybody in this draft that has one thing, it's easier for people to project. So when you're talking about a guy like Ron Holland, it is a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none or whatever. Yeah. And so maybe that's a piece of it, Nata, but the Dillingham thing is really weird because super streaky, and can get on fire, but had bad turnovers, is like what, 150 pounds? I mean, not that
he weighed in at 164, 6 foot nothing, 164, entirely too small, needs a weight training program. He's a guy that you are going to have to, he's a G League. He might end up being a G League guy, but he also might be Brandon Jennings, who, as we all remember, went for 55 as a rookie. So there's a lot of this. There's a lot of nuance to everything. There's a lot of nuance. There's a lot of, I like Rob Dillingham. It's just as this is one of the things that I have an issue with Reed Sheppard. We're seeing as we go along that this guard play is basically being 6'3" and up, 6'4" and up. Where's the room for a 6'0", 6 foot nothing point guard or combo guard, especially in a locker room where you have Micic, where you have a Nick Smith Jr., where you have again Bryce McGowan's. So like that's the thing with like Shepherd. That's also the thing I have with like a guy like Dillingham.
Okay, so here we are, the number 3 pick, which has always been viewed as sort of the fulcrum point of the rest of this lottery, because despite some Donovan Clingan noise, some smoke for him going 1-2, I think it's been Risa Shea and Sarr, some combination of that for most of this pre-draft process. And here we are. Risa Shea goes 1, Sarr goes 2, now 3. Will Houston select a player? And people largely expect them to, if they were to pick, it was going to be Reed Shepherd. And if they were going to trade, it could be Reed, it could be Castle, it could be, now we've got the pick. The pick is in.
Yep.
And Reed Shepherd is going to be your number 3
I would
overall
take back
pick.
my Castle prediction if I could take back my Castle prediction.
So Houston, I mean, I'm going to assume that Houston could not find the trade partner. So that, I mean, look, if you're sad about the Hornets not getting Reed Shepherd, you might be a little bit happy that this could put the Hornets in the driver's seat to move back if they wanted to get someone else to trade up.
Absolutely. Clingan, this feels like he's going to drop there, and he's going to be there. So
I feel like Klingan's going to make me some money.
Klingan might make you some money. I wonder what Detroit's going to do. I do worry about what Detroit is exactly going to do, because if you're Detroit and you have a lot of issues with your roster as well, they only won 14 games. They may be in asset collection mode, because Trajan Langdon is one of those guys that is going to end up basically seeing like, okay, I have to remake this entire roster. It may behoove me to start collecting assets and start putting this pick up for the highest bidder at this point.
What do we think about these draft caps, by the way? We've gotten to see 2 players wear them. They're all cream colored, it looks like. They're all the same color with the different logos on them.
They're certainly not the worst.
I'm not totally in love with the color and the fact that they're the same color for every player, and that color, it matches Sarr's suit. But it's not going to match.
Yeah, it's a summer khaki. Come on, it's hot outside.
It's a work boot.
Suit.
It's a work boot.
Yeah.
That's a color of a work boot.
Very much so.
Okay, I'm not in love with the cap, but I will buy it because I buy all of the draft caps. All right, so quick diversion there. We've got the pick in for Houston, or it's not in officially yet, but it's going to be Reed Shepherd. So we've got a few people on the chat who haven't been listening. Russin one says, y'all quit spoiling it. Somebody else mentioned, if we see it, we say it. That's been the rule for many, many years. Welcome. We always embrace newbies, but you have to get with the program, understand how things work around here. If you don't want it, come back tomorrow for analysis. This is the live draft special. We are live and we are paying attention to social media. So it's going to be Reed Shepherd at 3. We'll see who it is now that the San Antonio Spurs are on the clock. And the Hornets have been, I think, putting out a little smoke, trying to get the San Antonio Spurs to avoid Castle. Now, if Castle doesn't go here, are you guys like 100% confident he's not going to Detroit? Because you know what's scary about Detroit? Everyone has Buzelis going to Detroit, and they have
everyone
seemingly for the past 6 years. Buzelis has been going to Detroit, so that's always scary because that to me means that Buzelis is not going to Detroit.
Yeah, it feels like maybe we're just overlooking it because I was counting on it, but Buzelis also feels like a slide guy. You know what I mean? Like you could see him slipping down. So. Detroit can throw a curveball.
Yeah, I think he can. I honestly, like, Detroit has so many ways they can go. They were a team that I had heard rumors about that was involved in Rob Dillingham, that were very interested in Rob Dillingham.
Holy moly.
I would keep that name. Like, if Rob Dillingham, like, Detroit might be getting Dillingham. That's been a rumor for at least the last 24 hours. So I wouldn't be like, they can go in any different way. Like, they may be the crux of this. If they really like a guy, they select him. And then the Hornets, like, for some reason, I don't think they're drafting Dalton Knecht tonight. And I don't know why. but it feels like, and granted, I could be very, very wrong because they might just appreciate the shooting and move on, but Detroit feels wild, and Charlotte might do something even wilder tonight. I don't know.
Well, and Charlotte has at least avoided trading up to 3 and giving up a future first-round pick. I mean, that was one of my, in our preview that I did with Walker, that was one of my sort of situations that would make me angry, because I think the Hornets still do need to be focused. Look at how many picks it's taking to acquire these players. When the Hornets do get ready to win, they're going to need the assets so that they don't have to mortgage their own future. They can mortgage other futures that they've acquired. Sort of what OKC is waiting to do, and also take players in the meantime and hit on those players like Oklahoma City has been doing. So the blueprint is there for the Hornets. They've got to wait. They've got to be patient. They've got to bide their time until they can make the right move. And I'm glad that they didn't get too impatient here to go up and get Reed Shepherd. And per Jake Fisher, the Rockets are keeping Reed Shepherd, says Chris Littman. And yep, that's it on there on the timeline. And then Kevin asks a very important question. Will you apologize for spoiling the picks? I will never apologize for spoiling the picks. Kevin was baiting me there, and he knew it. Nate Schumann saying, could San Antonio go dilly and get Rob Dillingham? That would be
wild. That would be wild.
That would be a wild.
There've been rumors about Dillingham going in the top 5 all day today. So it shouldn't surprise us. It just might, though.
Well, so far it's been scratch. We have not had the shocking thing happen. We did not have the Anthony Bennett going number 1 overall kind of situation. We haven't had any trades yet, so we're still waiting for the chaos that we were promised. Some people asking about Nikola Topic. And David, you were asking about Nikola Topic as we were putting this rundown together. Why would the Hornets not consider Topic at 6, or even in a trade back scenario where he is more slotted right now, Nata? Why would the Hornets not select Topic?
Who does he score on? That was the thing. Like, I liked the tape before that. Then the size came out. He wasn't as big as he was. The wingspan came out. And there's a lot of where he doesn't really create separation. That's not good. Even if you have the size, I guess it becomes if he's not quick enough to get to the spot, or he's not strong enough to get to the spot, how do you play in this league? And for any guy that I have that kind of question, it automatically puts them down a little bit.
David, did you when you asked the question, were you asking it as if like, should they consider Topic?
Well, I'm just saying that is a swing, and I'm rethinking it. Though perhaps the Hornets are not in the specific space to be adding someone that has to recover from an injury and get back on the court and do it that way. So that would probably be a big concern for them. But I mean, uninjured, the guy was certainly in talks in the top 5, top 6 in that area. So it's certainly something that I think you have to look at. And it feels like someone like Indiana or like, I don't know, somebody's going to add this guy and he's going to be good for them. Once he gets back on the floor.
Right. I mean, and the fit's not great, but like you said, he's probably a year away with, he's got to get back from the injury, and then probably a year away from significantly contributing, but he projects out to be a floor general, and he's a tall floor general, 6'6", weighs 201, seems to be an incredible passer, sort of has that same sort of LaMelo Ball freak pass ability. Some of his comps are Goran Dragic, Rajon Rondo, Tony Parker in isolation. He was 1.19 points per shot attempt, 92nd percentile. Different league, yes. But I think you get a 2-for-1 if you draft Topic. You get a possible generational passer, and you get I don't know if you've heard this guy talk, but you get somebody that can cut promos for you. He talks. He has the booming, he has a voice that would be good in an action movie.
An Andrew Luck type.
And he does. Right, and very similar to Andrew Luck, it's very unexpected. Like, you look at him and you go, okay, I did not expect that voice to come out of that body. It's very odd.
Do we want to give him the bad news?
What's the bad news? Oh, there it is. Go ahead. Go ahead, Nata. Give him the bad news.
Stefan Castle is a San Antonio Spur.
I just don't get it. I don't get it for San Antonio. I don't get it at all.
If you think he's the best player in this draft, and there are people that believe that he's the best player in this draft, it makes complete sense. I just I think people focus way too much on the shooting did not focus enough on the defense, and forgot that this is, again, the big lots draft. You get the best player, and then you figure it out in free agency.
It's such a Spurs pick.
Let's shout some.
It just makes too much sense.
They're just not going to be able to shoot for like 5 years. I mean, maybe they've got some trades on deck in the next couple of years.
They have another pick too. They have another pick too, right? So if you're the Spurs, you're thinking, well, yeah, let's get our number one guy, and then there's going to be somebody there. I mean, at where are they, at 8? So they may try and work some things here, but I mean, so here it is. I mean,
here's the crux.
Klingon is lining up. He's in the sights. So I mean, I don't know how he makes any sense in Detroit. So like, I would be shocked if he went there, unless they're just trying a total zag. And maybe go Twin Towers. But as you said, that he's not really a shooter. So, like, if we're talking about Klingon in Charlotte, I mean,
we're not. I don't think we are. I don't think we are. I think we're talking about Klingon in a trade back scenario. I mean, you know me, if you've been listening to the show through this draft period, I've been advocating if Castle and Shepard were off the board, look, you can go connect. That's fine. That makes the most sense fit-wise. But I would not have a problem with at all adding Klingon, even if you were planning on keeping Mark Williams. Let those two guys fight it out, see who's the better prospect, and then trade the other guy. Now, the problem with that is if Klingon comes in and beats Mark for the spot in training camp, that's going to probably nuke Mark's trade value. Like, you'd love to like move him now when everybody's still, But the injuries have hurt that ability as well. So it's a difficult situation. Let's shout some folks out on the chat. Yes. Nate brings up the good point. Spurs keep jumping us. They got Wemby ahead of us for Miller, and now they get Castle. Castle's got to be happy though. I mean, he's going. I think this is a better situation.
Yeah, finally some good luck for that franchise. Just months and months of despair down there in San Antonio. So glad to see them on the come up.
Chief said, spoilers, I'm out. See you later, Chief. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll do some analysis of the pick.
Thanks, Chief.
I appreciate it, buddy. We've been doing this the same way for 10 years. I don't know what to tell you. So Michael says, can you please warn the chat prior to announcing the pick so anyone who wants to participate in the TV festivities can do so? With all due respect, Michael, no, we cannot. We're moving too fast. When we see it, we say it. We love you. And if you need to go, we understand. We'll see you tomorrow for the post-draft analysts. Dre saying this is a spoiler area. Exactly. All right. D. Davis says Coach Lee likes hardcore defensive efforts. Yeah. I think that is going to affect, not because Lee is going to demand that kind of player, but because everything that we got from the Lee press conferences seemed to say that he and Peterson and Schlotkin are all aligned on what this team needs. And so I just don't think this is not a Clifford Show situation. This is not a scenario where like they're going to pick someone that the coach is going to be unhappy with. At least I don't think. I mean, anything can happen. It just doesn't seem like that is going to be the case. Bam Bam does not want Klingon. 77 Music Nut says Doug manifested Castle being off the board. I mean, there was a lot to like. It is chalk. There was a lot to like about Castle. I was very frightened by the shooting. When Phony Gavoni, as phony as he is, I do believe is scouting. When he's not gossiping, when he's actually scouting, I do believe it. When he says he went to go film this guy and try to put a highlight reel together, he needed to see him hit 2 shots in a row and couldn't do it. He couldn't find it. That is scary.
Yeah. So let me ask you guys this. I mean, a lot of people said Klingon may be the best player in the draft. Certainly best available now, right? So certainly best available now. And are you really going to not draft him? And we'll see who trades and all that, but just talking, if you're really going to not draft him because Mark Williams is here? I mean, I wouldn't think so. I wouldn't think that would be prudent. I mean, he's one of the guys that can come in and can do something. Like there's only a couple of those guys. For sure, he can provide you rim protection and go catch lobs from LaMelo. And like, we know that. And he's still improving. He's still getting better. And
I'll say this, Nata, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, but listening to Lee talk about, so he was asked about 3 players specifically through the one-on-one interviews that he did. Yes. It was LaMelo Ball, it was Brandon Miller, it was Mark Williams. I would say of the 3,
he was most effusive.
That's well, LaMelo. I would say LaMelo and Brandon. He was like these guys are my guys. These guys are going to be the guys. Mark didn't. It didn't appear like he was totally stamping Mark as a franchise cornerstone.
We got to get him healthy part is the biggest thing that the biggest question mark that I have of everything I read. If he's healthy, if he's this, if he's that. So I don't think that, again, just drafting Klingon gets traded or anything else like that. They may keep him because Nick Richards is still a very, very valuable piece that might be able to get you assets this summer because of the low cap number. So I'm one of those guys that I do feel good about when Charles Lee says, Brandon Miller, he's going to be here. LaMelo, we just got to get him healthy.
Whoa, breaking news.
Hello, there it is.
Detroit selecting Ron Holland at number 5. Wow. Okay. So that means now we can now prep for the Hornets pick at 6. That means that Buzelis is going to be available. Detroit, I told you all along, people were saying Buzelis, Detroit. And if life has taught me anything, it's that if somebody says something is going to happen over and over and over and over again, it's probably not going to happen. That is just what life has taught me. And so Detroit selects Ron Holland.
Wow, good on you, Detroit. That's what I'm talking about. Let's mix it up here. We can't touch Buzelis. The Hornets can't touch Buzelis now, right?
Okay.
There's no way.
Let's hold on. Let's talk about the names that are going to be available here. You've still got Klingon on the board. You've still got Buzelis on the board. The guy that's been mocked the most to the Hornets recently, Dalton Knecht from Tennessee, is still on the board. Cody Williams. There was some talk of Cody Williams starting to rocket up the board. He obviously didn't rocket into the top 5. But, here at 6, could the Hornets eschew all of the Knecht and the Buzelis talk and the Klingon talk and go Cody Williams at 6? Nata, tell me a little bit about Cody Williams.
Cody Williams is a guy that played. The biggest thing that I can tell you about him is that he played hurt. And he played through a lot of injuries that he should not have. But he is going to be, that scares me.
I'm going to tell you right now, that scares me as a Hornets fan who's had to deal with a lot of folks that have been injured.
The thing with the Cody Williams injuries is that he played through them. He played through a bad ankle he probably should not have. He played with a broken face. He had the mask that had him looking like Robin. But if you're talking about bloodline, you're talking about a guy in a Jaden McDaniels role where you can just stick him on the best player. And eventually he's going to be the guy that you basically don't have to worry about. He takes your best score. He ends up being a defensive disruptor. Something, again, that this team really, really needs. He makes so much sense. But I'm going to say this. I love Cody Williams. Please trade back right now, because if Memphis is giving you anything worth it, if you're saying you get another player out, please just trade back, because I'm pretty sure that Cody Williams will be there at 9.
Tyler says, Matas, yes. Salaün and Cody will allow Miles to play the 3. That's a lot of assumptions there. The Miles Bridges will return. Miller Time 22 says no more falling stars. I mean, I don't know that I'm not counting Buzelis as and I'm not counting Buzelis falling one spot as a falling star. Klingon, I never bought the Klingon top 3 stuff. So
another team. Here we go. Woj. Another team working to move up and secure Klingon. Sources tell ESPN Portland.
Well, Portland is right there. So they would not have to be a heavy lift. Now they did give up some assets to get the great Denny Avdia earlier in the draft period. So
that's interesting. Honestly, no, I wouldn't even think that. What about Jeremy Grant?
Okay, that's Then that solves your Miles Bridges.
That solves the Miles Bridges. You replace one clutch client with another.
All right, let's look at the Portland contracts here. We'll pull up the Blazers and see what we can work out here. But yeah, you guys keep an eye on Twitter while I get some.
So Portland is right behind the Hornets, right? So that would
we don't even have to worry about it. Charlotte is working on a trade back to number 9, according to Jake Fisher.
Wow, the Hornets.
Look at this.
Trading
look at these guys. Who are these guys?
I'm about to make some money. I told you Klingon was going to go 6 because so number 9 is Memphis. Memphis has been coveting Klingon, and here Klingon is available at 6. Portland, I think, wanted a chance at Klingon too, so they were probably fielding calls from a lot of folks here. So let's.
So if you can add a Marcus Smart and drop back and add
So where do you
another-
see the where do you see the
you
9?
win.
Where do you see the
win.
9 trade back?
Jake Fisher.
Oh, Jake Fisher. That's right. Okay, I was looking at Woj.
Yeah.
My mistake. I was looking at Woj. Woj is a little slow on the uptake in this one.
Yes.
Slow, more like Sloge. Am I right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. So it's interesting because if they trade back, I wonder if Cody Williams again, if that's the pick, because they've loved him. That the big rumor, the big buzz was all along. He was the guy. He was one of those guys that Charlotte really loved. If they trade back and they gain an asset and they get another guy, they get a vet that can come here and be part of the change. Like that's a
Man,
win.
are you kidding me? Yeah,
like
we're
that's
probably
the-
talking it up too much now.
And look, Memphis is in win now mode. So, what kind of asset are they going to bring back? I think that's going to be important here. Is it going to be a Marcus Smart? Is it going to be a Clark? Is it going to be a future pick, multiple picks? I mean, we've got to see. Memphis really wanted to make this happen. So hopefully Charlotte and this new front office held the feet to the fire. But you got to feel like this is somebody in the chat called this an adult decision. I think that's dead on.
Yep.
Like to not feel the pressure of having to like swing and hit hard on this 6th pick, understanding the scenario that the Hornets are in, that they're not going to be looking to win immediately, that they can acquire some assets, that this pick was desired. And here's the thing, this deal is not officially done. But if they get a deal done, that would be so huge, because how many times during the cup check era, folks, were we sitting here having these kind of conversations going, they got to do a deal, right? This is a deal. They're going to do a deal. No, they didn't do a deal. They didn't get it done.
So I mean, these puzzle pieces would lead us to believe there's a bit of a bidding war between Portland and Memphis, perhaps, right? If Portland's trying to move up to block Klingon or to grab Klingon. So it's fascinating.
So what I would expect to happen here probably is that the Hornets are going to they're going to draft Klingon, and we're not going to know the details for some time. Right. So, and because they're going to continue to negotiate this out and see who can give them the best deal for Klingon, because they know they've got 2 teams in Portland and Memphis that both want
and
this
if not,
guy.
you keep them, right?
Basically.
I mean, if not, I guess you keep them.
Patrick saying Marcus Smart, Grant Williams reunited, and both reunited with Lee, right? Was Marcus Smart in the Lee era? So no,
he wasn't. But still, that's 2 tough, hard-nosed guys, and that's 2 more tough, hard-nosed guys than the Hornets have had in a very long time. We might have to go back to again, Wallace and Captain Jack. That's how far back we may have to go.
Yeah, wow. I think people are discounting Klingon a bit too much. I mean, he's very highly rated in this draft, especially. We'll see. It's not as exciting because he's not somebody that's going to get out on the wing and run and high fly and score big points. But there's definitely a presence there, and he does help your defense. He helps those guys in front of them. They've never had that. I mean, my God, they've never had anybody back there really. I mean, Mark does his best and is getting better when he's out there, especially. But this would be a big step up.
Yeah, we're just waiting for.
I'll just refresh it.
I'll just refresh it.
Jeremy, well, I'll hit the chat. I'll refresh the chat. Jeremy says love Devin Carter at 9. Devin Carter, elite defender. Is a little bit on the shorter side. Nata, tell us a little bit about Devin Carter.
Devin Carter is a bloodline type guy. Former son of Anthony Carter, had his big explosion onto the scene last year. Didn't really shoot it that well, but he is in the. If you think he's
holy crap.
What?
Oh my God!
I love the holy crap.
No.
Sorry.
Oh my God.
Let's see.
I don't.
The Hornets are Jake Fisher. The Hornets are now staying at 6 and selecting.
Oh my God.
Tidjane Salaün. It actually happened, folks. Tidjane Salaün. The who had that? Was that Kristen Peak?
That was Kristen Peak that had that. I didn't believe it.
Wow.
Oh,
we thought it was smoke. In fact, it was fire. And I don't know how many folks are going to find this to be a fire pick. But Tidjane Salaün, the wing from France, is going to be the pick, the 3rd player from France taken so far, according.
And they're keeping him.
And they are keeping him. So that's a wing and a little bit of a raw wing. But the Hornets Very raw, but look, this to me, I think signals that they were serious about lean years, that they feel like the next couple of years are not going to be contending years, and they've got some time, and they obviously fell in love with something. This wasn't a guy that worked out for the Hornets at all, right? It's strange.
This is I get it from an upside pick, because if you think he's Giannis or you think he's anything remotely resembling Giannis, I get it. I'm just wondering how this fell apart.
Yeah. Are you thinking this is an overthink by Jeff Peterson and company with the first pick? Yes. All right, let me give you some raw numbers on Salaün. So 6'10", 217. His wingspan, if you're a big wingspan guy, is almost 8 feet. It's 7 feet, 11 and a half inches. Born in 2005. Salaün is, by all accounts, a long-term bet. You know, got the physical tools. You're betting on some off-ball shooting coming along, and flashes of a guy that can create. But he's going to need to be put in a serious player development program. Not someone that I think is going to be looked to immediatee contribute. Wild card, wild card pick.
From a Charles Lee standpoint, is there any world where he knew this is? I mean, we talked about it earlier, but like you talk about not being on the map. I mean, just because no one's talked about it doesn't mean they haven't been obviously.
7'1" wingspan. I read this wrong. I'm reading quickly. 7'1" wingspan, not an almost 8 feet wingspan.
Well, guys, I'm just going to go on a limb and say I don't know if this is going to be super well received around the fan base. And we learned a little bit from that last year.
Oh boy, wow.
Well, no, because what's interesting? You're going from rumors that they wanted a guy like Reed Sheppard, who has, by all accounts, one of the best feels for the game in all of this draft, basketball IQ through the roof, to somebody in Salaün who's like one of his major cons is his feel for the game, in that it needs to seriously develop. I mean, this does. If you're looking for this guy to play any kind of minutes next season, this has the potential. I hate to summon this name. This name was summoned a few days ago in our draft coverage. I mean, this has some Noah Vonleh potential to it.
Yes. Yes. Like, I guess my whole thing for
there he is. Let's kind of narrate this situation here.
He's got a tie on.
Yeah. He's making his way to the podium now. 9 points per game last season for Cholet, 4 rebounds, 1.2 steals per game, if you like those numbers.
No, he's playing with dudes. I mean, he's playing with pros, and he's very young. As you guys said, raw. I guess if you're going to talk up this pick, you go back to, look, this draft sucks. It's a horrible draft. We're going to take a gigantic swing and try and get the next Giannis. I mean, honestly, I guess I'll be interested to hear what they say about it, but obviously not somebody we talked about a lot before this afternoon.
I'll add to this, because now it kind of makes sense. When I'll read this tweet from Kevin O'Connor. My sources say Steve Clifford is in love with Tidjane Salaün. Clifford moved from the coaching staff to the front office. Always love on-court hustlers, and maybe no one has a higher motor in this class than Salaün. But he's raw and needs a lot of time to hone his skills. High upside, first choice for Jeff Peterson. If Cliff is endorsing this, I might be slightly more okay with it. Slightly.
Hey, listen. People have been screaming for them to listen to Steve Clifford since he came here. Okay? So now they're finally listening to him. Wow. I mean, look. Is he playing on the French national team? Do we know?
I believe
he's awful young.
He might be.
A lot of people wanted Cody Williams in the chats. No Sauce Boss says he'll basically be a PJ Washington replacement. I'm okay with that. Not sure that that's going to be necessarily sort of one-to-one replacement there. And let's see, we've got a fire the GM already. We just hired him.
Wow.
And now we're going to fire him.
Yikes.
So,
all right. Hey, this is a real sports town, baby. This is a real sports town. We don't, okay?
Jake saying, mind your business, Cliff. Listen, whenever you have the opportunity to let your former coach who moves back into a front office position, who said, upon leaving that he really wanted to learn the draft. when you can let that guy, influence your decision making, you have to take that opportunity, I think.
Honestly,
Well, look, guys.
Cliff, everyone wanted to listen to Cliff when he said go pick Mitchell, and in hindsight, and we can't do that now and then also say, hey, shut up, Cliff. We don't want to hear from you. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to trust that this development staff is one that is going to develop this guy. But I'm gonna be real. I'm surprised that they didn't just trade down, unless the contract that was coming back was just that bad.
So someone on the chat said that because I'm not listening to the live coverage, but apparently ESPN is murdering this pick on air. I'm just going to say, I don't know if you watch the NBA Finals coverage, but I don't really give a damn what ESPN says about this pick, number one. Number two, it's important to remember, and Nata, you and Walker were doing the coverage for this draft. ESPN and a lot of the punditry loved the Book Night, Kai Jones, JT Thor draft. So punditry matters absolute bleep when it comes to this stuff. It is going to be a situation where we have to wait and play this out. And we made this point with the Brandon Miller discussion last season. You got to let this stuff play out, whether it's Brandon Miller versus Scoot or whether it's Salaün selecting him this high. This stuff is going to play out. I mean, who knew that Giannis was going to be Giannis when Giannis was selected? I think a lot of people looked at that pick by Milwaukee and shook their heads and said, that's a little high for a guy that we literally have fuzzy VHS tape of. We don't know what this guy is really capable of. And yet that obviously worked out for them. So look, it's a big risk. And I think the problem with this being a big risk, the problem
you don't
for
have the credibility.
No credibility. And you've got a fan base that is so hungry to win.
That's big.
And you're basically telling them, we'll see you in a couple of years. You know what I'm saying? It is a difficult one, I think, for the fan base to process. Communication is going to be so critical over the next couple of hours. When Jeff Peterson faces the media to talk about this pick, he is really going to have to do a sell job on Tidjane Salaün. The organization as a whole, top to bottom, is going to have to come out and really cape for this guy and tell us why they did this. This is not something that you can go, yeah, you guys, I mean, you guys saw all the mock drafts. This is who we were thinking. No, this is not what happened at all. Until Kristen Peak had this pretty late in the game, and we all poo-pooed it.
We all thought it was a smoke screen. Yeah. We all thought
we said vicious smoke screen, yeah.
Now maybe though Nata, maybe you're right. Maybe you are right that this was a revenge pick on San Antonio. They said, all right, you take our guy, we're taking your guy.
But also, I've also said, this was the open box special of drafts. So if you're going to go open box special, you go for the highest upside pick that you can do. I get it from so many angles. I just wish they would have gotten another asset to do it. I don't mind the pick. I mind that they managed to say, you know what, Memphis, we'll hold off. You know what, Portland, we can't get anything out of you. We're just going to take the guy we want. I get it to one extent, but there's a part of me that really does wish that they would have gotten another asset out of it, and I would be more than fine with it.
I wanted a big wing. I mean, I wanted a big wing, and this does technically count. You know what I also wonder? Detroit threw a wrench into this whole thing by selecting Ron Holland and not going Buzelis. Yeah. And so I wonder, you've got to react to your big board. And I wonder if on their big board they had Ron Holland rated high as well. And instead pivoted to Salaün.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Klingon goes to Portland. So, that's going to be hanging over this first selection because we know Klingon was there. We know Portland and Memphis likely valued him. And so
you got to bet
works
the
out that
bus.
way. And Doug loses a little bit of money.
Money.
It's I mean, that's what we talked about before, how nimble, how what's their ability to pivot when that curveball comes right in front of them at Ron Holland. And, they had a couple different choices that maybe they didn't think they would have. So, where was everybody on this guy, huh?
I mean,
come on.
I mean, where are the reporters on this one? It was all around Reed Shepherd. It was all around Castle. And to be fair, neither of those guys available, just as we predicted.
You got to draft to your board. You got to draft to your board, and you got to be honest to your board. You don't want to draft the falling knife. And I don't want to call Buzelis the falling knife, but he might have been in this situation.
Yeah. Look, I mean, you can't deny that the international players are impacting the game big time, right? From everywhere right now. So, it's just tough to come out of there. Yeah,
okay, I'm going to give you I'm going to save you and give you some more stats on Salaün, some more facts and figures on Salaün. He led France in scoring at the 2023 FIBA. Is it FIBA or is it FIBA?
No, not again.
U18 World Cup with 12.9 points per game. Here's his quote to ESPN.com. I am an energizer for my team. I always give 100%, bringing a lot of intensity and hustle. There is a fire in me that pushes me to be my best on every play. That seems to go along with Kevin O'Conman and his reporting on Steve Clifford, thinking he was a motor guy. And we did want Steve Clifford to be a right kind of player czar. It's just that is the timing right, I think, is what most fans are going to be upset about a little bit. He was 23-24's Basketball Champions League Best Young Player Award winner. He is a two-time French L&B Pro A Best Young Player of the Month selection. So this is a guy that's, the stats aren't gaudy, but it's a different league, and he was getting awards and getting recognition in the leagues that he was playing in. Long athletic forward, improving shooter. This is all, look, if in a year or two Salaün is putting up numbers, to me, this is a great litmus test for your player development that you just hired, both in your front office and in your coaching staff, right? If you can turn Salaün into a guy in a year or two, then people are going to be calling everyone in the organization a genius. And if you can't, then people are going to have big question marks about your first draft. By the way, do you remember Kupchak's first draft pick?
Miles Bridges.
And they made a trade back one spot, which is what the Hornets were reportedly in talks to do with Portland until Memphis until they decided to hang with the pick. So different regimes, they made different choices. And Miles Bridges, someone that was a college star, didn't contribute massively during his rookie season, but you could see all of the things. I mean, we don't know what Salaün is going to be able to do. But there was a guy last year from France that was drafted a lot higher in the lottery than people thought he was going to be drafted. Bilal Coulibaly, who for the Wizards got a lot of playing time and looked really, really good. So it is not impossible for Salaün to come in and develop very quickly.
Yeah.
So there you go. I just gave you sickos some sweet slopping hope.
I'll be fascinated to hear if we ever do, if we can hear back the details of that, of them trying to move up and the calls they were taking.
Well, the question has to be asked, and I don't think they're going to be very forthcoming with exactly what those negotiations were, but you got to ask the question, and hopefully we'll get some color on that from, the reports that come out of this and the trade grades that we see.
Well, we always do. Go back to the Godfather offer. You know what I mean? Where there's validity to everything, it's not, and it's just going to be a tough sell because it's almost like, you got to think like what. They're giving you something. If it was just a throwaway, you know what I mean? They're offering you something to move up, I guess.
I will defend them in this. If you're talking about possibly taking on a Jeremy Grant or a Marcus Smart, remember, they still do have to factor in salaries. They still have to add a lot of these guys. They do have salaries to play with. But with the way these new bands are working, I'm not so sure that I'm going to be the one to be playing around with the salary cap. When you start seeing Nick Claxton go for 25, you might have to start clearing around and start being fiscally responsible. And in that, now granted, then it also becomes why are you drafting a project at 6 that's going to cost you $7 million? There's that question. But for me, I understand the pick, especially if there was going to be a big salary that comes back on it. And if there was going to be a big salary that comes back,
Yeah.
I'd much rather the financial flexibility and just taking the guy you want.
Well, I'll say this too, and I'm gonna talk up this pick a little bit, and then maybe I'll talk it back down as we continue to really kind of dig into it and analyze it. But for now, I'm going to sort of try to get my head around why the Hornets would do this. I guess it would be different, right, if the Hornets didn't already have some future assets. Through the trade deadline, they were able to they picked up some young players and Trey Mann that could be tradable in the future, and Micic as well. They've gotten some first-round picks for the future. They can acquire more future first rounds with some of those deadline deals that they got done. And so I guess it would be a different situation if you took the young, raw prospect and you had literally that was what you were banking on completely. But I don't think that's totally what they're banking on. And you've already got LaMelo and Brandon as a possible 1-2 punch that could lead you into a postseason if they continue to develop and stay healthy, right? So, if you were going to convince me that this was the perfect opportunity to take a player like this and that they wanted to swing look, if they had drafted Connect, that's a Bogdanovich type of play, right? I mean, there's a ceiling on that guy.
Right.
Not going to be a superstar. Salaün's got an opportunity to be a superstar, and it was one of the few opportunities that they had to do that at 6.
I would say this: if they drafted Connect, we'd all be bashing them for being too safe and not taking a swing.
I wouldn't have, but I'm thirsty. I'm the guy in the desert that needs anything to drink, and if you hand me a bucket of sand, I'll think it's a Mountain Dew. I'm just so desperate to win.
But I do want to be fair to the Hornets. If they did a Dalton Connect, we would all be like, okay, they went the safe route instead of drafting Buzelis. They took the highest upside swing that they could in that position. So I can't that's something that we've all wanted them to do at this point. And I remember a lot of fans in my mentions saying, why are you going Castle? We should go for the biggest swing possible. The biggest swing possible is Tidjane Salaün, especially in a league that, as I'll keep mentioning, gets bigger and longer in terms of defenders and forwards and everything else like that.
See, Zach Edey messed this whole damn thing up, right? Because Zach Edey going number 9 to Memphis. Memphis was probably offering a package that Charlotte said, I want something else. I want more. And Memphis said, you know what? Just take Kling and we'll take Edey.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
I am not an Edey guy, by the way. I am not an Edey guy. Me personally, I would have just paid what I paid to go get Donovan Kling because
Edey, you messed this whole thing up.
Well, no, I think Memphis just was like, you know what? There's no real difference between Kling and Edey, and that's where I disagree. One of them can play the pick and roll. The other is Zach Edey. We're gonna. It's funny because I remember. Just there was a clip that was going around with Jalen Hood-Schifino was just beating Edey on the drop over and over and over again. And that's a Jalen Hood-Schifino that couldn't get any kind of run with the Los Angeles Lakers. So if that guy's doing it, we're going to see a lot of guards just beating him off the dribble on drop coverage. And it's a risk. It's a risk. But you know what? I'm glad that if that's going to be the case, if Memphis is going to try and play hardball, be like, we're not going to pay that much. When you have Minnesota out here giving out 20-31 unprotecteds for Rob Dillingham, yeah, I'm perfectly fine with the way things are.
There's a lot of draft left. We are not going to stay on for the entire thing. The Hornets could get back into this first round. They've got a high-ish second round pick that they've got to start thinking about. Any names? You want to throw out some names for second round pick?
Oh, I mean, my guy Harrison Ingram. Harrison Ingram is my guy there. But go ahead, Nata. Who else you got?
I don't think Harrison Ingram is going to be there at 42.
You don't? Okay.
No.
Okay.
I do think that if we're going to start talking about, it's going to be the Trenton Flowers of the world, Justin Edwards. Those are two guys I would probably look at in terms of now that you've got the big, now you're going to go get a wing. Maybe if Jamal Shed falls that far, maybe if people are really out on Ryan Dunn's offense, maybe him. If Ryan Dunn's there at 42,
you have to.
You sprint.
Yeah, you have to do that there.
For that. So those are the three guys.
Man, guys, I tell you what. I mean, look, let's talk this up just one more way. There's a chance this kid continues to grow. Right.
Well, that's the Giannis. When we keep throwing out Giannis's name, that was the thing. Yeah, I mean, Giannis did not look like the Giannis that we see today. He grew and grew quickly.
It's just going to be tough.
But go back and watch Giannis year
man.
one. Go back and watch Giannis year one. It wasn't, you're going to look and go, yeah, I kind of see it, but it wasn't immediately.
But even in that draft, you heard about Giannis before, right? Like that was the thinking. I mean, that was the thinking that Giannis could be this guy, and it made sense where he landed. This is just high and kind of out of the blue. No one's big board that I saw, no mock, no big board, had him anywhere near the Hornets that I can recall. Now, look, who cares? I mean, honestly, like at this point, it's done. Stuff gets wrong all the time. But that's going to be, I think your point, Doug, that's going to be the big explanation, the big talking point, the big thing that the fan base is kicked in the gut because they wanted to see something that's going to pump them up next year. And it's hard to see that.
So Dillingham goes 8. San Antonio trades it to Minnesota, and the trade is looking like a 2031 unprotected first-round pick and a top 1 protected 31 swap to San Antonio for the chance to take Dillingham at 8. And so you wonder for the Hornets, who are looking to move back into the 9 position or possibly the 7 with the 6th pick, were they offered a future first-round pick at all?
Because if not, then I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And that's why that's where I kind of can't blame the Hornets. If that's the case, they didn't get requisite value for this. I'm not sure I do it. Now, granted, that's when if I'm kind of like David, like if that's going to be the case, then I'm going to draft Klingon and hold him to the highest bidder. And then worst case scenario, I have another center. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, this pick does make a lot of sense from the perspective of the Hornets have been a mystery box, a black box. We have not known what was in the box. We had some suspicions about what was in the box. There were multiple players in the box. And then it ends up being somebody who none of us thought was even a twinkle in Jeff Peterson's eye. And so this does track with an organization that can definitely keep the lid on what they're thinking. It's just what they're thinking doesn't make any sense. It's one thing to be mysterious about it. It's another thing, to pull the curtain and, Oz is just a balding fat guy, working a machine.
Hey, is that Steve Clifford slander? Let's be careful.
Oh no, sorry, I wasn't.
Like, just be careful. Be careful. Like, I just like I would love to know the process. We're never going to know the process, but I would love to know the process that got him to Tidjane Salaün, because I don't want to say this feels like ownership saying, hey, we need a Giannis to compete, but this does have very quant heavy vibes to it.
It could be quant, but who was often doing press conferences from hotel rooms overseas, scouting folks? One Mitchell Kupchak.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And look,
he's an advisor.
He's not only an advisor, when you switch front offices, there has to be some carryover of scouting reports and different things. And I wouldn't be surprised if Kupchak had seen a little bit of Salaün before he was out the door and said, check this kid out.
If anyone is still watching or is watching at the watch parties, if you could check on Walker Mail, just to give us a thumbs up in the chat.
They didn't do anything at Spectrum Center again? Did they make that mistake again? Did they do something?
No,
there?
I mean, I don't think they're doing anything at Spectrum because they're doing all the work over there. So they did a watch party. I mean, Walker's
It's over at Suffolk Punch. It's over at Suffolk Punch.
Oh, so that's the official Hornets watch party.
Yeah.
I see.
Yeah.
I see.
And thankfully, there's a lot of beer over there because. And Suffolk Punch is probably the happiest folks for this Tidjane Salaün selection at this point.
Well, so again, Jeff Peterson, we're gonna hear more from Salaün. We've heard a little bit from him just after the pick. We're gonna hear more from him. We're gonna hear from Jeff Peterson. We will be back on here tomorrow to do more analysis and through the rest of the week and in the weeks to come as we get prepared to see Salaün in Summer League. It's coming. July, I believe 6th is the first day for the Hornets, if I'm not mistaken, in the California Classic. So we are going to get to see what they see in Salaün very quickly. All right. I think that's, unless you guys have any final thoughts, I think we'll wrap it here. We'll do some research. We'll watch some tape of some French leagues.
He is not on the preliminary roster that I see for the French national team. So if you want to see him this summer, either get to Vegas or, get ready for Summer League.
So the one thing I will say is that at least in the last 10, 15 games, he did extend his range. He can shoot threes.
And shot them and wasn't afraid to shoot them, right?
Exactly.
Shot a lot of threes. Yep.
So I would he may be a little bit more advanced, and Summer League might be the best place for him to shine and give us some hope.
Salaün, I mean, Summer League might be the only place for Salaün. We'll have to see. I mean, I don't know. Is this a stash situation? Is this I think a lot of questions left to be answered here by this front office. So, all right, for David and Nata, thank you, both of you gentlemen, for hanging with me for a little over an hour and a half. Thanks to everyone that got on the chat. I mean, let's do some final shout-outs. Barron, Adrian, Anastar, who seems to love this Tidjane Salaün pick. I mean, I think we're going to have some – if there's a benefit to the podcast, I think we're going to have some French viewers on YouTube now. So that's – anytime you take
Bonjour.
Bonjour. Oui, oui. Blaine, Casey, 97 Ghost. C. White's been with us for a long time. Haley's been with us for a long time. Danny Tapp. Are you back?
There we go.
Danny Tapp took a little bit of a break.
There we go.
Bridges is an unrestricted free agent. Danny Tapp might be back in action for us. I would love to see you on the chat some more. Nigel's been on the chat. Forday's been on the chat. Brandon's been on the chat. Thank you so much. Topo, really appreciate you supporting the show. Go listen to WFNZ, the rest of their coverage. They'll be, I think, taking you through the rest of the draft. Go Hornets. Go America. Let's swarm Charlotte. See you tomorrow, everybody.